So, your white friends are silent. Let's talk about it. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Find Your Light Live at an entirely different time. This is a healing space for Black and West Indian women. Today, I am talking about white people being silent while the world burns. Okay. Um, about all the racism, misogyny, xenophobia, sexism, and all the isms that are occurring. Somehow we have a group of people who can be kind of quiet, and it can cause a lot of complex emotions, okay, in Black and West Indian women. So let's talk about it. Before I begin, hello, everybody. My name is Rushni Cope, and I am an almost 50-year-old Black West Indian mother of a son with special needs. I'm a content creator, I am a certified life coach, and I am also a Black woman healing. I create humor filled healing spaces like this one so that other Black women can heal too. You are so welcome. I am live tonight on YouTube and Facebook. I am usually live on Fridays at 12:30, but yesterday was the blackout and I just decided to chill. Besides, I didn't have a good thing I really felt like talking about. So I left it alone. You know what I mean? And then this popped up in my timeline, and I decided I have time to talk about this today. If you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, drop a pineapple emoji in the chat and let me know where in the world you are watching from. Hello, Black Ya Yeah. Hi, thank you for watching. So, I'm going to tell you guys where this came from, this topic, and then I'm going to go in. I have a few notes, but it's just going to be off the top. And by all means, feel like jumping in the comment section. Hi, Marissa. Um, because this is something that is an evolving concept for me. Yeah. So, this topic about white people being silent as the world burns for all of us was brought on specifically by a post of one of my friends, right? And I'm going to read her post and then I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are. And by all means, please jump in with your thoughts. So last week or the week before, a friend posted a sad emoji with the American flag behind it. Yeah. And she wrote, I am heartbroken. I don't want to be, but I am. Yeah. For years, the fabric of our nation's relationship has been unraveling. We have become more divided, more entrenched, and more distant from one another. This is not about pushing a liberal agenda, but about recognizing that the conservative movement has been hijacked by a sinister force, one that thrives on fear, division, and silence. Yeah. And far too many in that camp have chosen to say nothing. Decades ago, when I saw the narrative taking hold that being a Christian meant that you had to be a Republican, I knew that we were headed for trouble. Now that trouble has arrived. I feel like it's been here, but that's what she wrote. I'm reading my friend's post. Okay. We were stepping into darkness that will be difficult, if not impossible, to emerge from unscathed. But what truly breaks my heart is the silence of my white conservative friends. This is my friend's post, public post, okay? Or perhaps I should call you associates. Your silence in the face of what's happening, is it complicity? Is it agreement? Either way, it's shameful. If you call yourself a believer, yet stand by as a man and a movement embodying the very opposite of Christ's teaching takes hold, then you will have to answer for that. And personally, I will grieve because it tells me that I never truly knew you. Well, I'm gonna get to that in a second. Um, and my trust in you was misplaced. Well. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Hold on. Finish. I'm reading the post that inspired this. Okay. That I was never your equal, only your project or your token. That realization is the deepest heartbreak of all. Okay. So that is the post that started and inspired this entire conversation that I'm deciding to have tonight. First of all, let me jump in and let me say hi to you guys. We got somebody in New Hampshire. What's up, New Hampshire? 1968 Chipster in Maryland. Hi, Sherry, North Carolina in the house. Hey, Lori. I know where Lori is, but I'm not going to tell y'all because Lori didn't tell us. Okay, but I'm not going to put you out here. Okay. Hi, Belinda. Hi. Okay, so that post by my friend is what inspired me jumping on with this topic tonight because I wonder if this is a common feeling. And I personally think I am beyond this feeling. Okay. I'm not here to say anything's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just here to point out that if you are feeling heartbroken about the silence of your non Black and maybe even Black, okay, if you check my thumbnail, there's a Black woman on that thumbnail too. If you, okay, and I'm gonna explain that in a second. If you are feeling some kind of way and having complex emotions about the silence of a person, a non-Black person mostly, or a person aligned with whiteness is basically what I'm gonna say. I want to start by validating. Okay. First of all, tell me if any of what I just read resonates with anybody watching in the chat. Let me know. Be honest. Okay. Be honest. Because grief is a feeling that you have lost something you thought you had. That's like the basic definition of grief, right? So it would make sense to feel sad if you felt that what you had was genuine community and equity and care with someone, and you are finding out that you may not. So drop it in the comments. Now, as I go on, I realize that this topic can attract a certain type of human that is unhealed, right? Especially with the word white in the title of the video. I know that live and or in the replay, we could catch those people coming. I'm not necessarily talking to you, although if you are willing to listen, that's who you can listen. I am talking to Black and West Indian women who are experiencing deafening silence in a time when that silence feels like harm. Yeah, that's who I'm talking to. And so I go on the internet and I searched this topic before I did this video. And I actually stumbled on a video of a white woman years ago that was about why white friends may not be speaking up specifically about racism. I think she put the video up around when all of the protests were happening with George Floyd. I think that's when she put the video up. The timeline makes sense, right? So I looked at her video and I listened to her video. And I'm just going to tell you this now. I'm not telling you this because I agree with it. I'm going to tell you what she said because I can't tell you why white people aren't talking up. I'm not a white woman. Let me look at me. And I'm not going to speak for white women. Okay? Now, I am following a white woman on TikTok who is doing the work of deconstructing and dismantling whiteness with white and Black women. Okay. I'm going to drop her information in the chat. So I can only tell you what I hear from other white women who are doing the work and who are not. Okay. But once again, this conversation is for Black women feeling harmed by the silence. Okay. So I listened to this woman's video and her reasons, I wrote them down for the fact that you may be having deafening silence when all of this is happening is some people simply don't post on social media in general. They're active offline, but not online, no matter the topic. Yeah. She also said that some people are actively doing the work that is necessary in their real lives, but they're not posting about it on the internet. This is what she shared. Okay. She also said that some people avoid discussing what they perceive as difficult topics on social media, and I'm going to get to that in a second. She also shared that some people may not know what to say or how to properly support a movement. And then she said this one, which is some people might actually believe that the issues being brought up, remember at the time, her video was about racism, are overblown and they just want things to go back to normal. Okay. Her video suggested that rather than assuming immediately that silence meant complicity, that people should consider, I'm reading this from what she said in her video. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just telling you guys what I heard. People should consider having private conversations with their friends to understand their perspective first, especially if those friends have otherwise demonstrated inclusive behavior in their actual life. Now, listen, let me say this, okay? When I saw when I saw my friend's post about being heartbroken about the deafening silence of her conservative white friends, I responded and said, and I'm not seeing any comments. I don't know. Sometimes these platforms are moving slow, so the comments come in slowly. But if you are commenting, I'm not seeing it. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not seeing comments popping up. Okay. I told my friend that her grief was valid and their silence meant, and I want you to breathe if you're listening to this, especially if you're an unhealed white woman listening to me, okay? That they were okay with it. Hear me out. Hear me out. When I have someone in my life, white, black, purple, polka dot, who is not saying anything about a pervasive harm happening to a group of people, I assume that in full or in part, they are okay with it, in full or in part. I make a note of that in my head. And if I'm being honest, me personally, I demote them if they were up there. I grieve and I move on. I don't personally have conversations anymore about those things because there are some things to me that are so obvious that I no longer live in a land of delusions and hope. Okay. I have become a stark realist. And when I say I've become a stark realist, I mean that when, who said it? Maya Angelou, when people show me who they are, I believe them. And that belief can often come with deep founts of grief. If I was a person who was living in a world of wish they were, thought they were, fill in the blanks when they never said that to me, and or hope they could do better because I care for them. Let me put it that way. What do you mean by that, Rashni? I mean, if somebody don't speak up about something happening, I think that they're complicit. This woman said not to think that people are complicit, but I don't see how to not take it as complicit. Complicit means in cahoots with. Complicit means okay with. Complicit means involved with. Okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that me, as a Black woman who has so many other things going on in her life, I'm a mom of a son with special needs. Yeah, yeah. That I don't understand the nuanced complexity of life trying to suck me under and just not having the time. There are plenty of things out here on Al Gore's internet. Is it still Al Gore's? Tabitha Brown's? Tabitha's internet? Whose internet is it? Okay, Kendrick Lamar's internet. There are plenty of things out here on Kendrick Lamar's internet that I just don't have the time to deal with because who has the time? Okay, I get that. And I also know you can easily be a white woman where life is trying to suck you under because we all have life happening. However, let me say this. This one right here, where she said some people avoid discussing topics that they perceive as difficult on social media, that comes with the privilege of whiteness. Yeah? Let me say this. How do I help God? I'm trying to figure out how to say this. For example, the reason why someone can choose not to discuss a topic on social media in real life, even in a small way. Listen, I'm not saying you have to be, I have low criteria for you to show me that you hip to the game. Okay. I'm not one of these people that need you to be protest. I don't need it. You could do in full or in part what your life allows you to do. But if you say nothing, if you don't even wink, reshare, say something that shows me that you think that this is ridiculous. The reason you can do that is privilege. The reason that you can ignore something is because you are not affected by the harm that's being caused by the systemic thing. Yeah? Let me put it this way. And brace yourself, Black women. Listen, because I'm gonna make an example out of something that you might actually be doing. Black women, I'm just listening to me because remember, I'm talking to us. I'm talking to us. So listen, okay? I'm the mom of a son with special needs, which means, and my son is 12, which means for the past 13 years, I have been thrown into the world of disability awareness in a way that I was not before. And being thrown into the world of abilities and disabilities made me realize how much of a privilege it was for me to ignore things. Yeah, yeah. Okay. If people were going around doing something that was eugenic, that had to do with people that were disabled, my ears would perk up in a way that somebody who does not live in this space didn't have to. Does that make sense? So if I'm being loud on the internet, loud or quiet, I'm not saying you gotta be loud. I'm saying if I'm talking all kind of blah 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 the internet, this ain't right, and this is the person who thinks it doesn't affect them, they have the privilege of being quiet. Yeah. And likewise, if they were doing a bunch of stuff to women only, like all of these things about taking away our rights when it comes to reproduction and all these things that they are trying to implement. Okay. If I'm a man, I could be quiet because I think it don't have nothing to do with me. Same thing with whiteness. Okay. And listen, pause. If you are a white person listening to this live and or on the replay, and that made you feel some kind of way, sit with the discomfort because discomfort is not something you avoid. Discomfort is something that you pause, reflect on, ask questions, become curious of. And if you need help from somebody who is doing the work to unpack the concept of whiteness, which comes with, let me just break this down, which comes with power, position, permission, and all of these hierarchical systems. It's a long conversation. I'm going to drop her name in the chat. Her name is Miriam Forrester. She is an autistic woman and a writer who is on TikTok right now. Okay. Her hyperfixation is systems, and she is breaking down whiteness and having conversations that she can have. Okay. If you felt a little tinge in your belly, go check Miriam out. Okay. Leave me alone. I got work to do here with brown women. Okay. I got work to do with brown women. Right. What I'm saying is, if the person is quiet, they okay with it. Breathe. Breathe, Black woman. Breathe, white woman. Whoever listening. If the person is quiet, it's because they are okay with it. Now, why they're okay with it could vary. Okay. They could be okay with it because they're a horrible person that wants to actually see you harmed. They could be okay with it because they're tired and they just don't have the capacity to deal with anything else right now. Okay. I'm sure that there are some things where I live in a space of privilege where I'm tired of the special needs mom and people are like, she's okay with it. I'm not saying I don't understand that nuance. I'm saying I have not been experiencing a lot of heartbreak when it comes to the silence of white people on my timelines because I just make a mental note of the fact that they can see all of this happening to all of these other people and be okay with it. Case in point, I just watched a lady yesterday on the CNN website who said that she voted for negative 92. She also said part of her vote was informed by the fact that she was having infertility issues and she wanted to be a mother. I have no idea how she got to negative 92 for that, but in her brain, that's how it worked out. Okay, I don't get it, whatever. And in that video, she was also saying that she regrets her vote because she's a federal worker and she lost her job. And she alluded to the fact that she voted for negative 92 and didn't think she would be affected. And in that way, she is saying the quiet thing out loud, right? So if you have a friend, it's not just even, listen, Blue Isis said, Fafo, I am not I see the F around and find out crowd, and I'm not gonna say that I don't have a good kiki giggle at some of the ridiculousness because some of it in my mind, I'm like, "Come on, how?" Like, it's kinda scary how slow people are. That's bad to say, but it's true, okay? I don't know how to say it right, so Imma say it wrong. It's kinda scary when you realize that cognitive functioning is on a spectrum, and some people are up here and some people are down here. The people that are down here don't know they're down there, okay? People will be making some decisions, you'll be like, "What the hell?" Anyway, what I'm saying, though, is people will intentionally make decisions that benefit them, they think will benefit them, and that you could be collateral damage. And they could intentionally want you to be collateral. They could be evil people that just want you to be harmed, all the way down to just complicit in the fact that you are collateral damage. And when I tell you black and brown women, that's a hard thing and a heartbreaking thing to sit in the reality of. And the reason why it's so hard for us is because we don't move that way, right? So it breaks our brain to realize that there are groups of people who are adherent to a system that can move that way. That's one of the things that I see people who are white women who are doing the work to dismantle the concept of whiteness and what it has done to them. Okay, laterally and hierarchically. Like they are doing the work and they are realizing that they are also negatively affected by the fact that they don't know how to foster community, healthy community, right? That's why, from the lens of the Black lived experience, I'm gonna go from the lens of the Black lived experience, we don't grasp it because we don't move like that. We move in a collective, communal, and divine way of an empathetic grouping that seems to be baked into our nature. And you have to really do a lot of like mental gymnastics to be a person who ends up in the 8%. And you know what I'm talking about, okay? To align yourself with that system that allows for the silence while they watch other people be harmed. That's why it's confusing to us. That's why it's confusing to us. That's why it's heartbreaking because you know that you wouldn't have done that to that person, but they doing it to you. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than realizing the reality that you're in. And this is what I was trying to say earlier. What's heartbreaking is to bring yourself from the delusion that you were living in. Like my friend said in her post, she said, "Is it complicity? Is it agreement? Um, I have to grieve because it tells me that I never knew you. My trust was misplaced. I was never your equal, only your project or your token." That's heartbreaking. Okay. And I would love to bring you a better um, message than the reality is the person that you are dealing with is still adherent to a system that silences them and may be stunted. Okay. I'm not saying this person woke up this morning and said, "I think I'm going to align myself with the system of whiteness." I'm saying this person is not aware that they are playing in this game of whiteness. I'm saying, like the lady on TikTok has broken down to me, part of the reason why white women show up as performative in a lot of spaces, even in spaces of allyship and and those sorts of things, is because performative is all they know. So that is the only offering that they have. And that's why women who are socialized in Black culture, we're so confused. We're so confused when they can choose silence while they watch people be harmed because we don't make those choices, right? It's like that video of the town hall, the Republican town hall recently, where they picked up that doctor lady. Them, them men picked her up and traipsed her out of the room. What? You know, if Black women were in that room and it was a Black person, there's no way. We don't move like that, right? So they're socialized to allow the silence. And sometimes they don't even realize that they're playing in this system too. And so it is heartbreaking to have somebody who you have in a different place in your mind show you where you actually are. And all I can say to that is one, I'm sorry. Two, it sucks. Yes, it's heartbreaking. But also, a mark of maturity that I have found on my healing journey is grieving and then putting people into reality, into actual reality. What did they show me? Not who I wish they were, not who I hope they were, not who I thought they were to me when I gave them all this benefit of the doubt, who they are showing me. And if you can watch people be ripped from their families, separated, hurt, harm, rights be taken from people, that's, I mean, as wild work as it sounds to me to say this, that's who you are. And I personally demote and distance. Okay. I demote and distance. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comments. I don't know if I feel like I got that out, but I needed to jump on because I know that, listen, when I say we, I mean Black women, we become, we volunteer ourselves so easily because of the deep fount of empathy and the socialization to be used in a system that needs us to be the floor of the system, right? It's such an automatic thing for us to want to care for others that we assume that they come in at us the same way, and they may not be. Okay. And if you're a white person listening to this and you're just like, oh my gosh, listen, go to Miriam Foster. Let me get you Miriam's information. Okay. Because I'm talking to people who are willing to do high cognition stuff. If this makes you tinge, you're not willing to do the work yet. I have white friends who I say stuff like this and they'd be like, girl, I know that's right. You know why? Because you can dismantle a system. Okay. I'm not saying that we all dismantle it perfectly, but I mean, if you could hear what I'm saying with peace, because you could understand that I'm just describing a systemic manifestation that got you by the nuts too. Anyway, I don't know how I got over there, but let me get up here. I'm going to go in the comments. So, okay. Well, Nature Neek says she just started watching me on Monster Created. I'm so happy I'm here. Yeah, I started uploading my Monster Created podcast, which is kind of akin to the weekly update that I used to do eons ago. If y'all okay, I have a Monster Created page on YouTube, and I started uploading the Monster Created podcast to the Facebook glamazini page because hey, why not? Okay, hey, why not? And just so you know, on that podcast, it's where I talk about pop culture topics and personal musings and just random topics. So if you like that version of me, that's what she's talking about. Blue Isis says, but I am glad that their silence is so loud. It helps me make important decisions. That part. Okay. Say something. Think of it this way. Imagine if I, a mom of a son with special needs, was living through a eugenics decision in the system and they were coming for people who couldn't walk. And I didn't see you say nary a word. When I say I ain't seen you put a post on your page, I ain't even seen you reshare. A reshare is one click. I have not seen you put one dissenting word out there about the fact that people who are wheelchair users, this is wrong and you do not support it. Listen, I'm not saying that you're protesting, although go protest, you know what I mean? What do you think I'm going to think of you when they come in to come get my son in a wheelchair? So it's no different that if things are affecting women and things are affecting brown women and things are affecting black women and things are affecting immigrants, and I have family that are immigrants, and you say nothing, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking the same thing. Okay. I'm thinking the same thing. I also think that socialization as white, this is a guess. I don't know this to be true because I was not socialized as white. Okay. I'm just saying from listening to white voices who explain the socialization into whiteness, which is power and position and permission and hierarchy and rule following, right? People who don't even realize that that's what they do. And you got to, privilege is a prison. You have to give up something to catch the prizes of any privileged position, right? And a lot of white people give up their authentic selves to fall into rules and hierarchies. And all they know is how to put you in. Somebody has to be in a hierarchy. Somebody has to be up somebody has to be down. For them to be up, somebody has to be down. Okay, and they don't even know they're in the system. I've heard this from white people doing this work. And part of that work, or part of adhering to systems of whiteness, is the ability to be silent when you see harm because of that hierarchy. It's almost like you have to turn off part of your humanity to be able to adhere to something and see and put people below you. Does that make sense? I hope I'm getting that out. You can't see people as less than without turning off part of your consciousness and your humanity. And it's like, I don't know if listen, I don't know whether it's a choice or if it's just inherent in the position at this point. I know some people who are like, that's just how white people are. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I do think that the systemic positioning of whiteness, and also, which is why I put a black woman on my thumbnail, okay? Um, alignment with the concept of whiteness, because they're not always just white people who quiet, okay? Um, there was people up in the White House for Black History Month. The 8%ers and the 20%ers was up in there, okay? Skin folk ain't kinfolk and all that kind of stuff. There is a silence that is allowed because you are following the rules and checking off the boxes, and the people who aren't have to be below because there's a hierarchy, right? That's what I've heard from the white people that I sit and listen to. Okay, because I can't tell you how to be socialized as whiteness. Okay. I gotta listen to the people. They say the silence is loud because the silence is allowed. Right? The silence is allowed. They are also aware of the system, and they are also aware of what happens when you speak up. When you speak up, you are discarded from the position that you are in the system, and you are thrown below. And one of the worst things that can happen when you are socialized in a hierarchical system of position is to go down. Hopefully, I got that out. Hi, Katrina. Hi, Boo Boo. S. Oliver says, yes, it's a hard reality to face, and they're so scared of us because of how they've intentionally treated us, thinking we'll turn around and do the same if given enough power, money, and influence. Well, listen, you just said what I was saying, but also think about it. If all you know is a system of permission, of hierarchy and position, I get to be above, somebody has to be below. In the capitalistic situation, somebody got to be the capital. Who's the capital? It's us. I mean, us, Brown. You see us right here? Okay, we socialize down, right? Somebody got to be up. I want to keep my position as up because I know what happens when I say something that's outside of the confines of what I've been told I can and cannot do. I get chucked down. And being down is the worst thing in the world, right? Also, the assumption, like S. Oliver says, is you're also playing this position game. So you're also looking to come up on top of somebody. When I'm up there, I'm going to do it to you. And if you get up there, you're going to do it to me. Now, as a Black woman, we all know how ridiculous that sounds to us. It sounds ridiculous to us, but it's because we are not socialized that way. And that's part of why the silence is okay. And that's part of why I can find a video on the internet of a white woman, a well meaning white woman, I hope, saying stuff about like, it doesn't mean that we're complicit. And it doesn't mean, this. And maybe they just want everything to go back to normal. Okay. They want everything to go back to normal. Like, hey, just follow the rules and go back to normal with no conceptualization that the rules that you are trying to put back in place or the thing that you are ignoring is harming whole groups of people. Delisha says, I was already distancing myself prior to the election from two so-called white friends for many, many reasons. Radio silence about that fool in the White House blocked. Not doing this anymore. I support, I was trying to think of what to say. I support any version of a response to this. I know people who just don't even deal with white people anymore. I am not that person. Okay. I'm not that person. But if that's your response, it makes sense from the trauma of it all. I'm not I'm not going to say that I don't understand it from the trauma of it all. I'm not that person, but I get it. Okay? I get it. At this point in our lives, you have to let me bring it to myself. And this is not just with race. This is anything. At this point on my specific healing journey, if you don't show me that you're a growth minded, healing minded individual, not that you've hit the mark, but you're at least aiming at something, I probably have distanced myself from you. Period. That goes for this silence when it comes to racism. It goes for sexism, for men. It goes for all the isms and the phobia. It goes for all of it. I have already begun distancing myself from you. I have zero time left on this planet. Okay. I saw a video of Angie Stone singing yesterday. The video was put up 18 hours ago. Angie Stone was singing to us, and that woman died in a car accident. This thing does end. Life does end. Okay. I have zero time left for any person adhering to brokenness to a fault, because I have learned that trying to go in and rescue people who choose to be blank, to choose to ignore, who choose to turn their head to brokenness, and who try to bring back systems that harm me and or other people, I just want to get away from them. I'm not saying that that's a healthy choice. I'm saying that's where I'm at. Now, that doesn't include every single human being in the group, which is why I'm not a person that's 100% like get rid of white people. I'm not that person. Okay, there are white people doing work to dismantle the systems that they also were born into, and I align myself with those people. I say what I have to say, and there are people who I know in real life who are like, "Yeah, girl, these systems suck, and I could rock with you." But when you are not operating in reality at this point, I don't have nothing to do with you no more. I'm too old. I'm too old. That's the folly of teens and 20s. Okay, I can't be as old as I am still playing that anesthetized game with anybody. S. Oliver says that keeps them emboldened to keep systems or create them to keep us in our place. You know what's fascinating about it? The lady on TikTok that I keep bringing up, Miriam, I enjoyed listening to her because she's not necessarily coming up with solutions. She's coming up with questions specifically from the vantage point of a white woman who has realized that she has been conditioned in a system, and specifically a system that offers them stunted emotional growth. This is her, not me. Listen, if that made you feel some kind of way, go talk to Miriam. Okay, she's over there doing the work. She's like, the system offers us hierarchy, stunted emotional growth, alignment with harming other people so we don't get harmed. And specifically, somebody had asked her, like, why is it so hard for y'all to like come together as a community? Because Black women, we don't have that problem at all. And Miriam said, it's because we don't like each other, because there's a hierarchy in ours. So like when we are around other people, we got to put somebody below. When we are around ourselves, we see ourselves as competition. And I was like, huh. So she was like, you're asking me to provide a safety I've never experienced. And I was like, dang. That's why I just be watching the women videos and be like, they got some stuff to unpack too. They stuck in the middle. Okay. They trying to listen to their daddies and they listen, there's a lot going on. Anyway, that's not who I'm talking to. Y'all go to Miriam. She gonna do the work for y'all. Okay. She gonna do the work. But yeah, that conversation about putting us in a place. It's almost like the idea that there shouldn't be a hierarchy doesn't exist. At least that's what I'm getting from the conversation. And part of the silence that we experience is understanding that if you speak up, you make yourself known to be dropped in the hierarchy as well. You end up down there with us. And you know what happens when you end up down there with us, right? Now, I know there's going to be some white woman watching my video and she can be like, that's not what's happening. Listen, I'm not saying you're consciously doing this, nor do I know whether you are doing this. If you are doing healing work, the chance that you feel hit by this is low. Okay. My pastor used to say, I didn't call your name, so drop your rock. I think that a regulated system is part of one of the highest, like your nervous system. I feel like the higher you go in how you show up on this journey, the more chill you are about when people say stuff. I know people who are not deregulated when they hear things that are describing systems, even systems that they have been socialized into. Okay. As Oliver said, that's it. They're big mad that we're silent. Um, Not yet. This is how they are when we're the ones being dragged out. Yeah, I think that you are talking about the fact that we won't put our bodies on the line right now. Yeah, I've seen some posts like that, people being like, where are black people? We 92%, I was trying to think of where to go, of black women voted for this not to happen, for this administration not to happen. 80% of black men voted for this administration not to happen. We were in the answer to that question is we were in the voting booth stopping this from happening at the root. We was cutting it off. Y'all showed up all over the place. Numbers all when you look at the numbers all over the place. Okay. So there is work to be done internally, which is why I keep bringing up this Miriam women and other people who may be doing that work that I don't know about. There's work to be done because when you look at and listen, if I were a white woman who voted for Kamala, I would have looked at that number and I would have been so embarrassed. Okay, I would have been embarrassed. And been like, what are we doing? Okay. So yeah, there's a desire now to bring us forward and be like, why y'all ain't doing the work? Because remember, as I've learned from people who are doing this work, the system requires for us to be the capital. For us, we're low on the system. We're woman below man, black below white, black woman below all of it. Okay. To build on the back of something, the capital in capitalism, we are the capital. We are the capital. And that's the sad thing. The sad part about the silence is realizing that the system is working as intended. And that's something you often have to stop and take a deep breath about. And I'm not just talking about black women realizing that. I'm talking about white women. Like if you're a white woman and you listen to this video and you got this far, good for you. Okay? Good for you. The system is working as intended to anesthetize you as well. Because if inside of you there is an empathetic energy and you haven't said a word for all the reasons that I might have said at the beginning of this video, system got you too. System got your tongue too. Okay? And that's something for you to unpack. Blue Isis says when a brown person excels, some freak out and question why and how, and you could possibly be thriving when they aren't. I kid you not, that Miriam woman talked about this. Okay? She talked about this. Somebody asked a question about this. Okay, this is the work that Marissa and Kamani always talk about with Pet to Threat. And Miriam, who is a woman on TikTok, a white woman who is unpacking whiteness and systems and breaking it down. She said, not me, okay? So drop your rock if you want, come at me. This woman said, it is because, you ready for this, Blue Isis? Let me see if I could get it out. In the hierarchical system, there are rules. And when you follow the rules, you get your prizes, right? You know, I'm not talking about that. You follow the systemic rules, you get your prizes. Now, are there really prizes at the end? Not really. For like two people get the prizes. Everybody else want to get the prizes. We all get jacked. Anyway. So she's like, when you are following the rule of whiteness, it's this rule of like docileness and quietness and support your man, right? There's a lot of like, support your man, build him up. Like she broke it down. Okay. There's all of that. And she's like, and be quiet and be kind and be like, you know, you could be nasty, but you gotta be nice nasty. Like they learn how to like subvert it and still come off. You know what I'm talking about? You know, that like nice, nasty Southern Belle archetype like that, right? She's like, so what happens with black women is they'll come into a space like work or whatever, and they'll be really good at what they're doing. but they're not socialized to that. Do, 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 do. Right? So in her mind and in white women's mind, this is what she said, not me. She's like, that's not supposed to work. There's not supposed to be a benefit to that. You need to play by the rules and drop down here. And when black women don't play by the rules, right? Because we are socialized. Listen, I'm not saying it's a good socialization. I'm saying it is a socialization. We are allowed to speak up more, apparently, according to her. And we be in there speaking up and saying things and saying what's right and saying what's wrong with a little spice and a little do, 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 do. And in their minds, they're just like, you're not supposed to be thriving. That's not supposed to be working. And if you have not dismantled the system in your mind, you won't recognize your like visceral reaction to try to, say it with me, bring her down some notches. And I was like, Miriam is out here breaking it down, breaking it down. Okay. Calandra, if you are predators, you are always trying not to be the prey. That part, boo boo. That part, boo boo. If you live in a life, if you live, oh, help. If you live in a reality where there's an up and a down, a right and a wrong, a prey and a predator, right? A victor and a victim, you got to put yourself in the position of up, right, victor, because otherwise the only other option is the opposing version of that. And if you are a white man, the system says you're at the top. And if you are a white woman, you stay silent because you need to stay in alignment, in proximity to the person that can keep you safe, or else you end up the prey as well. And that can also happen for black people that align themselves to whiteness, which is why I put a black woman on my thumbnail too, okay? Because we all know there are black people who you'd be like, how? I have stopped on my TikTok to specifically listen to Black MAGA people talk. I listen to people all the time. I don't always comment. I am the queen of lurking. I always love the human mind is so fascinating to me. Scary, okay? Scary, but fascinating. And so I have sat and listened to Black people who are full out MAGA speak. And I'll be like, how? But the answer to how is the foundational concept is a very black, white, victim, victor, on top, on bottom. And that is also the appeal of some of the people who they see as position, who have won the system. Look at the people who are up there advising and then right, the Muskrats and the Bezos and stuff. They've won the system, right? I'm not saying it's wonderful. I'm saying if you understand what's going on, it snaps you back into an unfortunate reality, but a reality nonetheless. Okay? It snaps you. You're going to have to look up this. Listen, she's not the only person doing this work. She's just the most recent one. It's not a big platform either. It's a very small platform. Apparently she's autistic and her hyperfixation is systems. And this woman has been out there just breaking it down, okay, answering people's questions. And when I tell you what I love about her mind and why I keep suggesting her is I love the fact that she, as a white woman, is like, listen, this is what's going on. And she just be saying it as plain as day. And you'll be like, listen, that. And she's like, I'm in here too. Like, I'm in here floundering too. I get to be silent because the system allows me to watch you be harmed. I told you, I watched CNN and the white woman said, I voted for him because I thought I was going to have a benefit and other people were going to have a negative. She said it out her mouth. And I was just like, what in the world? But that's okay. Like, that's an okay choice because hierarchies, right? Hierarchies, right? Just as white women being mad when rich white men choose black women. Listen, that's a whole other thing. We got a whole other conversation, but it makes sense when you understand the systemic concept of it, right? We don't follow the rules of quiet, nice, nasty, but we are definitely socialized for other stuff, unfortunately. But yes, when it comes to the freedom of expression and speaking up, we are socialized to be allowed to do so. Now, the system says that we're this and we're that and we're the other for it, but we tend to be able to do it more than other groups, right? And so that is also part of why there is a uh, a call for like, why aren't you guys being loud about it? Why aren't you see what I'm saying? Because this group is supposed to be the group of quiet, docile people. So when they're quiet, why are we shocked? They socialize to be quiet. And we're supposed to be the mules screaming from the hilltops about what's wrong. Why are you guys quiet? You see what I'm saying? It's a we're watching a systemic thing happen in front of our eyes. People who are blind to their part in the cog, the conveyor belt, they gonna show up quiet in their white bodies, not realizing that that means something to the people being harmed. And they get to be quiet in the system. And that is why I personally just make a note of that and move on. Because when I see somebody choosing not to show up in a opportunity where it is so ubiquitously obvious, I'm not talking about some niche thing. I'm talking about ubiquitously obvious that so many people are being harmed and you ain't even reshared something. I know life is hard, but you ain't even hit the reshare button on something to virtue signal. I mean, I want you to do more than virtue signal, but for God's sakes, virtue signal some virtue. Sorry. If you don't at minimum signal some virtue at this point, then I think the virtue's not there and I distance myself from you. Okay. I Kalanda, what do you mean we have to speak up more? Specifically about what? You mean just in our lives? There's more things that we have to speak up about? To keep slaves, you are also enslaved in the mind. Yes. You cannot systemic hierarchies, systemic hierarchies require dehumanization of someone. Yeah. To maintain a systemic hierarchy, the goal of the game is to be the centered group considered human. And everybody else can be that. Them others, people over there, okay? So you are not. I am. And unfortunately, part of that means you have to, like I said, privilege is a prison. And I mean this in all the different ways that people are privileged, right? Because I live in privileged classes too. You have to be willing to give away pieces of yourself in order to stay in the center and win prizes. Am I saying that that's good? No, it's ridiculous. Okay. The center of the whole thing should be human. And we should also be spokes on the wheel. But people who have power don't often want to give up the power. And if you are socialized to break off pieces of yourself so that you can maintain power in a hierarchical system, you're also willing to break off pieces of other people because you see nothing wrong with it, because you had to give up something to work in the system. So they have to give up something. We all have to give up something, right? Like like your brain can't even come to a whole thought because from the beginning of this, you were socialized within it. And that's why I'm saying the silence is not seen as a negative. A little tinge about something, but I mean, it is what it is unless it comes to my doorstep. The whiteness and slave mentality, they need healing and restoration also, but keep running from it. They refuse to face themselves. Our other minorities think if they are aligned with them with whiteness, then they will be grandfathered into whiteness. Correct. So systems of hierarchy, something has to be up, something has to be down. Okay. For example, I always like to give these examples of ways that I am privileged. Yeah. I'm tall, you guys. I don't know if you guys know this because right on the internet, I'm a talking head. I am 6'1". Studies show that perceptively tall people make more money. Tall people are perceived as smarter. Tall people are perceived as leader. I'm tall. I didn't do anything to be tall. I did nothing. Okay. By chance, I popped out tall. I'm also pretty. Okay. And if you don't think I'm pretty, it sucks to be you. Okay. Because I've been on this planet for 50 years and my personal, it might not translate on the internet, but here out here in the personal lived experience, I have experienced pretty privilege my entire life. Okay. It don't hurt me. It don't hurt me. I am able bodied. My son is a wheelchair user. I have never been more aware of my privilege as an able bodied person until I lived life with a person who needs a wheelchair. When I walk into a room or a space or anything, I scan it immediately for how accessible things are. I did not have to do that before I had my son. That's what I'm saying, right? White people don't have to scan a room to find the black person, to see if they feel safe in a space, to navigate 8,000 microaggressions. Although white women do. Women, you're a woman anyway. And so it is very possible for a system that you are adhering to blindly, blindly, to make you operate in a way that is subhuman. And you can stay in that space, like being silent when people are being harmed and not even realize it unless you choose to dismantle that thing. Hopefully, I got that out. Many actually do realize what they're doing. They revel in the fact that they can be quiet, ignore what's glaring at them in their face. Yeah, I think that that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to get out with nuance. I think probably to a fault. I often put myself in the seat of other people and try to think what would that feel like? And if I were not in this black body, which I'm so happy I am, okay? If I had a choice, this is the one I would choose to be in this race. It's a good time. I love us, and I actually like the black experience. Okay, I know that that might sound crazy to somebody because they just like, oh, you at the bottom of the hierarchy, but you have to remember I don't have your hierarchy, so sucks to be you. We not having a good time, okay? Or we're over here, not down. We're over here having a good time, okay? But here's the thing: if I were in a system of whiteness, me myself personally, I would be so, I don't know what I would be. There would be such a spectrum of experience within that system that I would be like, oh my goodness, there is so much work to do. Because even in the recent, from like pre-election to election and into this administration and everything, I have seen videos of people who are flat out saying, I voted this way to maintain whiteness. Like, I watched a video of a man, he was just eating his little steak and he just looked at that man who was not white and said, I voted because whiteness. And I was like, well, at least he's being honest, right? Some people are rotten to the core. Some people just are. And then on the other end of that, there's just this like blankness that I think, and every version of it in between. There's just this some people who are so cognitively innocent that at this big age, I still avoid them because you can't have the childlike mind that you have at this big age and not be causing me harm. If you are, I saw this girl on TikTok one time say, if you are causing nemesis level harm in my life and you are unaware of it, you are still as dangerous as somebody who is intentionally doing it. Okay. You're a bull in a china shop. You're a kid with a pew pew. Me getting shot by you is not change whether you intended to or not. You live in a dissociative fugue of what are you talking about? It's not that deep. I just think everything should go back to normal. And you're basically akin to a toddler with a pew pew. You are also unsafe. Okay. So yes, some people are very aware of the harm that is being caused and they intentionally chose it, which is pause. If you're a person and you never thought about that, especially if it's a friend, breathe. There are people who chose knowing you might be harmed. Figure out how to grieve that. Take a deep breath. Figure out how to grieve that, operate in reality, and move forward. There are also people who choose to just be in an anesthetized state. Also dangerous. Okay. And I'm telling you that because that's something I had to learn. I had to learn that. Me, myself, Freshly personal. I'm not just talking about race. I'm just talking about people who choose to move through the world pretending like they don't see the harm or trying to go back to some like it was all good back in the day. Okay. Calandra, I mean that historically Black women were the ones in the homes of white people. We were seen as safe. We became a shield. We became the shield for our men and children. I'm an introvert, but I have always been expected to lead, speak, bear the burdens of others and socialization. Yeah, nuance within the Black experience has not often been allowed and or not allowed is not the word I'm looking for. Nuance within the Black experience has been something that has been demoted, and a stereotypical blob of who we are has been promoted. I can see that. And I think that we have done it too to each other, if I'm being honest. Okay. My black card stay getting taken. But the reason why I can joke around about my black card and my Virgin Islands card getting taken, because y'all can't take my card. But the joke of black card being taken is a joke of that communal oneness that we all tend to move toward. And I think that that is part of why it's so difficult for us to not understand when things are being spoken up about, or when people are choosing not to speak up about, because we are not socialized to be so hyper independent and find safety in centering our men who are at the top of the hierarchy. Did that come out right? Black womanhood, especially, we are allowed and socialized to find safety in each other. And to Calandra's point, we are more recently, at least in my more recent experience, allowing for varied expressions of people to be who they are within the expression of Blackness. You can be an introvert, you can be a nerd, you could be a geek, you could be a punk rock, you could be a hip hop, you could be all the things, right? Which we didn't kind of had. It was just like, you're black, and that's what that means. You're loud, you lead, you're a mule. And it's like, no, there are quiet black women. There are nerdy black women. There are introverted black women. There are black women who don't want to lead. She don't want to be your mule. She not a freak in the morning, freak in the freak all of no, right? We exist in a very way. But I also think that we aren't as socialized to silence ourselves about the harm of ourselves and others to get safety from the men that are supposed to be our center and our savior. But listen, that's not my work to do, okay? My work to do is to tell. I'm sorry, I'm sitting out. This is what happens when I go live late, okay? I'm sitting out thinking about like, that has to be scary. And my empathy is kicking in a bit. But Black women, if your friends are silent, they are silent because, in full or in part, something about them is okay with what's happening and or okay with not letting you know that they're not okay with it. Your pain and discomfort and possible harm, they do not feel the need to speak on it to you. And I would encourage you to evaluate if you consider a person willing to operate with you in that way as a friend. Because I personally do not. I don't anymore. Okay. Nobody with me breathing on 50's neck can operate with me that way anymore and be considered in the holy of holies. Them suckers ain't even in the inner court. They barely in the outer court. Barely. Okay. I don't have it anymore. Calandra said, I have no interest to lead. I like being in the background. I love seeing my sister shine. I'll sit in the audience and clap. And that is who you know, first of all, I'm just happy that you know who you are. Okay, because so many of us don't even get to sit down and figure out who we are and then show up as our whole authentic selves in the world. Okay. Um, and that's okay. And so I guess to wrap this up, if you are dealing with silence, deafening silence that is causing you complex emotions of rage and heartbreak and all of that, with everything going on, all the rights being taken away, all the people being harmed, and you hear nothing from people who you thought loved you, cared for you, and saw you as an equal. I'm sorry. They are showing up with their choice or their capacity that gave me a second to think about what I was trying to say. That is that person's best. That is their best. That's their best. The question I would ask you is, if their best is causing you harm, do you choose, do you choose to surround yourself with people who willingly or collateral damagely will cause you harm? The video I saw of the white woman who said, maybe you should pull your friend to the side and say something. That's advanced work. Okay. I'm not saying not to do that. I'm saying that that's emotional labor. And I would never suggest that carte blanche to every Black woman to go and do the emotional labor to bring to, no, no, no. Who has time? Okay. I would never. Now, I am saying that it is possible for you in very unique experiences to speak to very unique people who you may have a very unique um, relationship with and say something. But I will say this, there is no white person in my real world life, in real life or on the internet that I care about and who I have in a position in my life that I consider to be a friend that ain't said nothing yet. And my question to you is, why, how would they get to be your friend? Them ain't your friends. Sorry, sorry. I don't know how to say it right. I want you to consider whether that's friends. That's not you. Everybody ain't your friend. There are different levels of relationship that people can be: acquaintance, um, church person that you go church person, co-worker. Demote, okay? Demote in your mind. You don't have to go to the person and tell me you demote them. Demote them. That person is causing harm to you. They're a bull in a china shop, and they probably got bull in a china shop results in their own life. And you see them having bull in a china shop results in their own life, and they go that all that bull in a china shop is going to leak over to you. Okay. Hopefully I got that out. Whenever I'm on these lives and I can't get the thought out, I'm always like, man, I didn't get that out. And then when I listen to it back, it makes more sense. So hopefully that make more sense. If you are interested in working with me as your coach, you can find out how to do so at thepineapplecrowns.com. Right now, I am offering group coaching as well as one-on-one coaching. I just added the 14 days to friendship challenge. It is wrapping up today with the last day, I believe, and it is a permanent part of the coaching membership. So if you are interested in the 14 days to friendship challenge, it is accessible under the Pineapple Crowns as part of the group coaching membership. The membership also gives you access to courses on boundaries, courses on holistic productivity, courses on healing the mother wound, monthly calls, a community, and more. And next month, I am going to be putting up a Ask for What You Want challenge starting on March 16th. So you can check all that out at the link that's on the screen, thepineapplecrowns.com, and it should be the first link in the information box wherever you're watching. That's it. Be well, you guys. Be encouraged. Stay safe out there. Here's a pineapple. Bye, y'all.